Welcome again to Excellence Talks, Maria Garcia Salmones. And this time you bring Luis Vidaechea Benito with you. What a pleasure.
Thank you so much for inviting us, Christian.
Thank you very much.
Maria, you are a design thinking lead. You conduct important transformation projects and you're also an entrepreneur.
Indeed.
We conducted our first interview about an year ago. Isn't that unbelievable? And published it on YouTube.
Indeed. Just 1 year ago.
1 year ago. And the title of our interview was Innovation Powers Excellence. So we combined innovation and excellence, which is a fantastic topic.
Indeed.
And now you bring Luis. Luis, welcome to Excellence Talks.
Thanks for the opportunity, Christian. It's a pleasure to me to stay here.
I found out, Luis, that you are a Scrum Master and an Agile lead at Santander Global Tech and passionate about software and software developments and Agile frameworks.
Yes, I do.
So good to have you both. And today we want to talk about agility and design thinking. My first question will go to you, Luis. Can you tell us what Agile is for you? And why did you become so passionate about Agile?
It's a great question to start. Agile represents the freedom that any engineer or passionate about their work can create with absolute freedom, empowerment, and autonomy. Years ago, after finishing my career as computer engineer, I observed that methodology I learned at the university did not work in the context of today's companies. When in 2012, more or less, I began to hear about Scrum and Agile, curiosity made me want to know more. The connection with martial arts, my other great passion, made me love him. But without a doubt, his open and different mentality and mindset made me want to dedicate myself to it.
Let me ask an extra question. Martial arts, there's something that connects us. I've done karate until the dark brown belt only, because then it turned out to be too dangerous. But I connected karate and excellence. And I even brought my fourth down trainer to an excellent company, Bosch in Bursa, and we demonstrated on stage how excellence and martial arts go together. So what would be your philosophy? How do you bring Scrum and Agile and everything together with martial arts?
Well, actually, I'm for degree of Kempo, another Japanese martial art, and I have a very little school in Segovia, my city. And many years ago, I observed that the same principles exist in Agile and martial arts. Okay, the Kaizen, improve constant, and the excellence in any movement, in any technique. Okay, these there are because Agile born in Japan with Lean, and Lean born in the Toyota, and Toyota use the principal culture of Japan, the Kaizen, the constant improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And in many instructors of Scrum applies the Shuhari, the 3 ways to understand the learning of from the martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
Shu is the first step of the learning. I learn the rules, the principles. In the high step, I try to break the rule, and in the most top step of the learning, I became the rule. These parallels between martial arts and engineering process appreciate me.
Isn't that amazing, huh? What we found out. So we have the first big message to our audience out there, that martial arts are connected, in fact, to Agile and to innovation and to excellence and to everything. So we can just encourage everybody to go for any of these martial arts topics. I can really recommend. Thank you. Thank you for this insight, Louise. And Maria, now, what does design thinking mean for you?
Well, to me, and I think in that I'm connected to Luis, I also studied engineering, and I started, my first part of my career was in finance and risk management. So I spent a lot of time behind the screen, filling Excel sheets and basically analyzing numbers. And there was a moment in my career where I realized that I needed more. And that's why I started an MBA. And during that MBA, I was in Silicon Valley and visiting the startups. I discovered design thinking. And to me, that was such an eye-opener to put back humans in the center, to leave the numbers and to complement with the numbers, but to always start by why is my user, what is the key need, and what the people that are going to work for me, what do they need, and what are their ambitions and what are their desires. And that really, to me, was so fascinating that I decided I had to start applying design thinking.
So passion connects us. I see there is a common topic, that's passion. And so we have agile here and we have design thinking. Maria, these topics are often presented together. But how do these techniques complement each other? Are they two sides of the same thing?
Yeah, I like that expression. They're like two sides of the same coin, I would say. I believe in the one hand, design thinking really helps you at the beginning when you're starting a transformation or when you want to bring a new project or a new service, a new product. It really helps you to discover what is the need and to put focus on what is it that you have to do. And I think Agile is complementary in the sense that tells you how to do things, how to do things right, how should you execute and implement in the best possible ways. I think in that sense, they're very complementary indeed.
Luis, do you want to add anything?
I absolutely agree with my partner. For example, Scrum and design thinking works great together, like a technique named dual track, who lets the discovers connect with the delivery. For example, it's an example of 1,000 who exist. About the complementary positions about agile and design thinking.
Now, for those listeners who say, wow, that's something for me, I heard that, and let's start tomorrow. What are some of the biggest pitfalls of implementing design thinking or agile? Is it as easy as it looks like?
Well, I think Luis would agree that it's not that easy, that it's quite a transformation and it requires, as we would talk about, in a mindset shift. And I think one of the biggest pitfalls that design thinking brings is to just stay into the energy. Design thinking brings a lot of energy. It brings a new way of ideating, a new way of bringing people together, very creative brainstorming techniques. And I think the pitfall is that you just stay there and that you don't implement. And that's why to me agile is so important. That you just stay in the energy. And sometimes as well that it's implemented maybe in a too superficial way. So for example, you will just focus on the templates or you just focus on the post-its. But at the end of the day, the really important thing is to have the empathy to deeply understand your customers, to create this environment of collaboration. And those are the principles that are much more difficult actually than just the templates or the post-its.
Since at the end of the day, you want to create benefit, right, for your customers. And we come back to this topic in a few minutes. Luis, what do you think are, from your position, the biggest pitfalls?
Yeah, in addition to what Maria says, in my opinion, the biggest problem that both design thinking and agile find is the resistance to change and the change of mindset necessary for any framework to work. My favorite motto, I taught many times in many workshops, in many universities, is practice techniques accelerates, but culture drives. You can't start an agile or cultural transformations without a culture who can support this transformation.
Yeah. So you need to inspire the people to follow you and support you, and be as passionate as you are, as the one who goes forward. We have seen design thinking and agile becoming a hype, I'd say, recently in companies. Do you both think it's just a fashion trend? Will it go away, or is it really something new that brings new quality to solutions?
It's for me or for Maria?
Oh, Luis, start with the first answer if you want.
Okay, I thought these years we have completed 20 years since the signing of the Agile Manifesto. It's the truth, 20 years only. But the origins of agility go back to the beginning of the 20th century with the work, for example, of the Walter Seaworth. Okay, sometimes known as the father of statistical quality control, and also related to the Seaworth cycle. Okay, plan, do, study, act, with the notable influence that, by the foundations of many of the agile frameworks that we know as Scrum. And another example, for example, Kanban, it was created in 1948 at Toyota. Do you really think this is a fashion trend?
Definitely not. Good example. Maria, would you have more points?
Yeah, I think what I like saying when people say this is the end of design thinking, I say, oh my God, if this is the end of design thinking, is the end of empathy. And the day that is the end of empathy, humanity is doomed, you know? So I like to think that that you cannot end with empathy. And some people don't like to call it design thinking. Some people have their own methodologies, like some companies like IBM or Microsoft, they develop their own models. But as far as you have into account empathy, then to me, it's a good work that you're doing. If you want to call it differently, call it differently. But I hope empathy is not a fashion that will be over.
I like your connection to empathy. It's a very interesting aspect. So we have already covered the people that you need to inspire to support you. And now you bring this empathy aspect, again, a human aspect into this picture. So it's not just a methodology, but it means much more, and it has to do with attitude as well, right?
Totally. I fully agree.
Coming back to this aspect of benefit, obviously there is some target. There's some reason why you do that. And there is some benefit you want to deliver at the end of the day for your customers, or maybe even for more stakeholders. So my question would be, how can you measure the benefit of agile and design thinking? Maybe you start, Maria.
I think that was one of my biggest headaches when I started implementing design thinking, because of course the leaders of an organization, they want to start seeing benefits as soon as possible.
Of course.
And you as an entrepreneur, enthusiastic, passionate designer, you see it so clear that it is so obvious, right? Why do you need to see KPIs that the benefit is there? Yeah. And I think also as an entrepreneur, I learned that if you are a good manager, you also have to have good measurements. Yeah. And I learned the hard way. And I think I arrived to a compromise in which we measure things that are tangible, but we also look at things that are intangible. And when you're applying this type of changes in mindset, you have a lot of intangible benefits that you cannot measure the same way. And for that, we use the iceberg model that is coming from Jane Littke. And the iceberg model basically says that on the iceberg, you have the top, and that is what you can measure with numbers. For example, for us, in one of the prototypes we created, it was the decrease of time spent in meetings by management.
Yes.
Something that you can quantify, measure, and put a euro value on it. And then you have everything that is underneath the iceberg, and those are the intangibles. And I would say what is closer to the surface of the water are the things that you can measure, but are subjective. For example, if I measure employee satisfaction, yeah, or if I measure client satisfaction, I have surveys, I have ways to measure it, but it's still something intangible, yeah. And then below that, you have everything that is much more complicated to measure. And that is what we call about the change on the conversations, the change in the way of working between people. And finally, the last layer is the change on your own way of looking at things. Yeah? For example, the other day, I was at the end of a project that we had been doing in France, and a lawyer told me, "You have changed my way to see the world." As a lawyer, I was used to follow that path with all the rules, and I had to follow this line. And now you have taught me, okay, you can go to a different path. Yeah, you can take a different way. You can be crazy. You can come with crazy ideas. You can get off the path. You can test prototypes that will work, that will not work. And that, to me, is the deeper layer and is the most important. Yeah.
Isn't that a fantastic feedback to get these words from your customer who said, you changed my way of looking at things, you changed my perspective? And that's exactly, by the way, what I try to do with my customers. And going back to measurements, this is also what we try to implement. So you have some tangible measurements, as you call them, the time in meetings or anything related to money or quality or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's about benefit, right? And benefit is measured through feedback, through perception, and change of attitude and any of these things. And then you try to bring these together, and probably the best projects then have very good tangible measurements, and that lead to fantastic feedback and real change then in people's minds as well.
Indeed.
Wow, I'm very impressed, Maria. Luis, it's about measurements of agile and design thinking. So I guess most people out there would say it is just impossible to measure that. Okay, so we can create something, we can make something agile, but how can you measure the effect, the benefit of it? So how would you explain that?
I absolutely agree with Maria again. We need to be more ambitious in the meaning of benefits and the meaning of measure. For example, if I have always believed that those you measure, you will get. Okay, if you only measure productivity, you will only get productivity. We need to measure everything: return of investment, satisfaction of the users, engagement of our developers, of our partners. Alignment with the portfolio in our company. Okay, we need to measure everything. Okay, for stabilize the real benefits. Because for each organization define the benefit different. Okay, in this sense, to measure the success or failure of an agile transformation, you can implement another methodology, which has been used by Google, for example, for this purpose, OKRs, okay, which is the acronym that refers to objectives and key results. Okay, we can define it as an internal work method that, by setting objectives and their corresponding key results, allows organizations, the work of the company, defining work groups and monitoring progress and monitoring the success or failure of these initiatives. Because for each companies, we can define different scales for determine what does mean benefit, what means success, what means failure. Okay.
Luis, let me check my understanding. So from what I understand from you, you measure tangible things during the project, which is the easy part. And then you measure benefit in different ways. You said you measure everything, what you can, okay, including feedback and everything. Would it be the case that you correlate the tangible and the intangible measurements, like more the performance side and then the benefit side? And if this fits together, then you would have the best possible situation and the best possible benefit. Would that be a way to see that? Or maybe Maria?
I have to say we tried to do that at the beginning. So we measure, we started saying, for example, if I have a team that is collaborating on a better way, of that are happier, a bench market would say that they're 10% or 15% more productive. Yeah. And so we try to link those intangible with tangible benefits. At the end of the day, we kind of said, you know what, we have to force leadership to be okay, to have intangible benefits. Yeah. So having people that are happier, it's a good thing on its own. And maybe you don't need to convert that into productivity.
Of course.
Yes. So we linked it in such way in which we say, okay, you know, we do have tangible benefits and we do have intangible benefits, and both of them bring value.
Yes.
And it's not so easy to link them.
Yes.
That's how we close the conversation with them.
I see. Yeah, but the big picture is probably that things lead to each other and are linked in a harmonious way, as Chinese would say. So that what you do on the performance side actually leads to benefit on the result side.
Yes.
Fascinating. I learned so much. And I have a last question to both of you. First to Luis. If we have inspired our people out there, and we have lots of followers now after a year in Excellence Talks, and they say, hey, let's roll up our sleeves, we want to start Agile and Design Thinking. What would be the key requirements for a successful Design Thinking and for Agile implementation?
Great question. I have no the truth, the really truth about anything in my life. Okay, I have no the best answer to this question, because if I have this answer, maybe I can change the world, but I only try it. Okay, I can bring you my best answer for this question. Okay, what I would recommend is that exist different models like Spotify model. Don't copy that. Okay, agility exists innately in all companies. We just have to help it to evolve. I don't create in the digital transformations, cultural transformations. I don't believe in that. I think the evolution of all the companies. Okay, in my opinion, the first step should be to look for innovators. Okay, those people who want change and are able to think outside of the box and create a small agile transformation team that begins to work on an area or product or service, and there continue to another parts of the company. Okay, I saw in the past different examples of companies who try to transform all the company at the same time, and they are an absolutely failure. Okay, in my opinion, agility should be like the origins. Small teams makes small things.
Start small, build on innovation drivers, focus on people who are positive, who are supportive, and then grow this into a bigger movement. I have a very good picture in my head now, Luis. How would you see that, Maria?
I think it's very similar in many ways, right? Because both methodologies, as we were saying, are mindset changes, actually. So to me as well, when I started implementing design thinking in my company, I really look for the pioneers, the people that wanted to change the world and were tired of going against the wall again and again. And actually, by going together, you create a kind of a movement. You create a movement that has energy. And that energy actually helps you to create that change, and to start convincing the people that are not so passionate at the beginning, but they want to give it a go, and they give it a go, and they see that it's bringing some value, and little by little you continue expanding into the organization. And that's how I did it in my case, you see. And I think design thinking started originally very much linked to product innovation. But you can actually apply it everywhere in your business. You can apply it in HR for your employee journeys. It's actually like excellence, like what you're working on, Christian. You can apply it in every department. Yeah, you can apply it in product, in HR. You can apply it in innovation, and it just because it's such a, as we were saying, such an essential thing of applying empathy, that it can apply everywhere. And I think to what Luis was saying, the advantage of going small and growing is that it's just more organic, maybe. And people don't feel that they're being imposed, you see. As of tomorrow, we are all agile. You see, follow the instructions, yeah?
Yes.
Now we are a design thinking company. What? No, but I'm still here. You see, nothing has changed. And by doing it small and by small steps and having success cases, as Luis was saying, that it works in small team, it works into something else. Maybe you do a bigger transformation afterwards. It doesn't have so much resistance. It grows more naturally, like a kind of a tree.
Yes. Wow, Maria and Luis, I learned so much from you, and I'm grateful. Since I started out to understand more about agile and design thinking, but I think I learned about empathy as well. I learned about dynamics, about organic growth, about innovation, about people who support more or less, and how important leadership is as well, I guess, and that it takes some time to develop something. It doesn't work overnight, right?
Indeed.
Thank you so much for sharing with us your invaluable insights, for your time, and also for showing that passion is so important for things. Both you radiate passion, that's incredible, and that's fantastic to see. Just look into your faces, your body language, and that's amazing. So I'm sure you radiate beyond this studio into the world, and I guess many people will like that and will comment on our final product. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Christian. It was a pleasure, and then maybe see you next year again.
Or maybe even half a year, if we have a topic that we can share with our audience. And Luis, thank you also.
Thanks to you, Christian. It's a pleasure to me to stay here with you, and absolutely fashion with Maria, with her knowledge and her passion. It's absolutely pleasure to stay here with you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.